other side of it. Because one of the things that, and I remember you and I have talked about this before, but you talk about loving yourself.
Yeah.
Now, as a well-brought-up scientific man, that just sounds icky. Right? But I know when you talk about it, it's not icky. Like, I don't get that, I don't get that vibe. Well, you just need to love yourself, you know, it's right? Like, I don't get that when you talk about it. So can you talk about, like, for you, what is it, oh, this is a terrible question. What is it to love yourself in a non-icky way?
That's a great question. It's a great way of putting it. It means to realize that you are an expression of God. You are an expression of the universe. And to not honor that, to not recognize that, means to deny God from expressing himself, herself, itself through you. When you don't value yourself, when you don't see yourself as worthy, when you don't allow yourself to receive, you literally are blocking yourself from being who you came here to be. You are depriving the world from experiencing you. You're depriving the world of who you came here to be. And if you think in terms of the tapestry that I spoke about, that thread in the tapestry, that thread needs to express itself to touch all the other threads, who will then go on to touch all the other threads. You're depriving that thread from doing that. You're depriving the tapestry from being complete. You are part of a complete tapestry. So to reverse engineer that, when I was growing up, I was taught that it was selfish to love myself. And I was also taught that we have to suppress our egos. Every time my parents would take me to see spiritual gurus, which used to happen pretty often, the theme was pretty common, that you have to worship somebody, something, somebody, even if it was a guru or a being outside. You had to worship someone outside of you, so you give your power away to someone outside of you, and you have to diminish your own ego. To me, diminishing my own ego was the same as diminishing my light. Every time my voice would come up that I want to say something, I would remind myself, that's my ego. I have to squash my ego. I have to suppress my ego. I dimmed my light so much that I became invisible. And that's not who we're here to become. In my culture, as a woman, we are actually rewarded for being invisible. And it took death, not even cancer. I can't be that enlightened, because even cancer wasn't a wake-up call. I literally had to die, which means I can't be that enlightened or that smart. I had to die to figure out that that's not why we came here.
Well, I'm feeling better about myself.
And we come here really to shine our light, to be full expressions of ourselves, not to diminish. And that's what it means to me to love yourself.
There's something beautiful in that. I used to hate the notion of humility, right? Because it was so tied in with shame.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you need to be more humble. Oh God, I'm sorry. Right. And
Yes.
and it always felt to me like what people were really saying is, so I can be greater.
Yes.
You need to be more humble so I can. And I kind of had a whole thing about it. And then I probably one of my favorite things I ever heard Sid Banks say was when he said, humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less.
I like that. See, that's good.
And that was the first time where I went, oh yeah, I don't have to be the most important person in the universe, for better or for worse. And I like that, because then it's not that I'm suppressing myself or beating myself up or anything like that. I just am more available to God. I'm more available to this life force. There's a little less me in the way. Now, there's still plenty of me there.
Yeah.
Right? But like a little bit of me goes a long way. Like I always think of our egos as like the seasoning.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like Anita flavored God, and Michael flavored God.
Yeah.
Now, if you put too much Anita on it, it's a little off. Some people will still like it, but it's not quite the same flavor. But a little bit of Anita will bring something out in the God souffle
Yeah.
that isn't there otherwise. A little bit of Michael. And it'll be there anyways, because we can never really not be there. That brings something unique out in the flavor. And there'll always be people who love Anita flavored God. There'll be people who love Michael flavored God. There'll be people who love, you flavored God, Kelly flavored God, Liat flavored God, Pramila flavored, right? It's fine. It's really good.
Yeah.
But it's just that you don't need quite as much of it as I think we sometimes put in.
I agree with you. And see, and I feel that way about ego, in that when you tell somebody, just like you said, if somebody says to you, don't be so, like you've got to have more humility. The same way if somebody says, don't be so egotistical. In actuality, people who appear to be egotistical actually have very small egos. People who are fully confident, who know who they are, don't need to be egotistical. They don't need to constantly be the center of attention. So when you are sure of yourself, when you love yourself, you don't need to put yourself in every front and center of every situation.
Back when I used to do a voiceover, so I was a professional voiceover.
That's why you have such a wonderful voice.
No, that's why I was a professional voiceover. It worked the other way around, but I get what you mean. But there was a guy in England at the time named Bill Bailey, and he used to be the voice of the Odeon, and he had one of these voices I dreamt of. Apparently, I just never drank enough whiskey or smoked enough cigars to have his voice. But he was this larger-than-life character. He dressed all in black. He was about 300 pounds. He always had a big black 10-gallon hat, and just was this larger-than-life character. And he kind of took me under his wing because we'd run into, I was usually the light voice and he was the heavy voice. And so we did some work together, and I remember him saying something to me one day that really impacted me. And he said, Michael, I won't do the voice because I can't. He said, in this world, you must get rid of all vanity, but never let them take your ego. And oh my God, that made a difference to me. Because I suddenly saw that they were two different things. Vanity, for me, was about wanting people to see me a certain way.
Yeah.
It was about wanting to appear a certain way. It was about wanting people to like me, wanting people to... But ego, what I took from that in that moment, was just me being me expressing myself.
I like that.
Me being true to myself, me living fearlessly. And there was something about just being able to distinguish those two things that made me less self-conscious about it. And because I was less self-conscious, less conscious of that self, it did something for me.
That's really beautiful. I like that a lot. And it's similar to the difference between having an ego and being egocentric.
Yeah.
Yeah, because being egocentric means no awareness of other people, but only your own. But yeah, having a healthy ego. I honestly believe that the reason why we don't have as many spiritual people, we don't have any really spiritually aware people in leadership positions in the world, is because in spirituality we're constantly told to suppress our egos. But you need an ego if you want to hold a leadership position. You really do. So I really think that we really need to change this. We need to change the dialogue around egos so that people with more spiritual awareness will step up and take leadership positions.